Hey guys, it's Brijette with Sandy Seed Company, and today I'm in this beautiful summer garden and we're going to be talking about cherry tomatoes. How you grow them, different ways in which you can trellis them, common diseases that you might find on them, everything that you need to know to go through a cherry tomato growing season with confidence. The cherry tomatoes are amazing because they're really fun, especially if you have kids in the garden. And spoiler alert, if you live on the coast, cherry tomatoes are actually way easier to grow than large beefsteak tomatoes. They'll give you tomatoes for a very long period of time and they really can be very fruitful. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking about some common tomato diseases and what you need to know about them so that you can have a really good cherry tomato season. Okay, so you guys go online, you do some shopping, you pick up some cherry tomato seeds. Now what do you do with them? So cherry tomatoes and all tomato seeds are typically started in starters that are transplanted out into the garden. That's in part because they need a little bit of heat and you have more control in a little 6-pack or a starter pack and then putting them out into the garden. Now in this video, I'm not going to get into the details on how you start the seed because we have so many of those videos. We'll link to them in the description. But basically these seeds were started late February, beginning of March in zone 9 and 10. There's one thing I really want you guys to quit doing. Quit saying, I'm late, I'm late, I'm late. You're not late. It's Southern California, baby. We got all summer, well into the fall to grow our tomatoes. And depending on where you are, you can grow cherry tomatoes pretty much year round in zone 9 and 10. Not necessarily recommended because of the disease pressure, but the point I'm making is it's July right now, and if you're watching this video and going, oh, I missed cherry tomato season. No, you didn't. Get yourself some seeds, start them, plant them out. It'll be a later planting, but you'll still get tons of cherry tomatoes. So that's a key tip for you. So you plant them out. Now, where do you plant them? Full sun. I really got to point this out as being probably the most common mistake people make when they're new gardeners with tomatoes. Don't put them in a shady spot. Even semi-shade is not okay because they need full sun to really grow and thrive and to grow fast enough to be healthy enough to fight off any diseases that they might have. Now, the funny thing about tomatoes is they're an incredible plant, and I have a book about tomato diseases that's about this thick. And I'm going to tell you right now, it is impossible to get a really good diagnosis on a tomato disease from a photo. Even the AI apps that we have now, they're not good enough. Tomato diseases and viruses are so complicated that the only way you really can know for sure what tomato disease you have is if you send it into a plant pathology lab and they actually test it and they tell you. Now, there's a lot of different personality types out there and you might really want to do that, but I don't really think it's necessary. You want to know why? Because do you really care? Okay, if the plant is really happy, a little bit of disease is not going to be a big deal. And the reason why I say that is because you're going to get something. You're going to get whiteflies. You might get a little bit of blight. You might get a little bit of powdery mildew. The most important thing about growing tomatoes is culturally how you grow them so that they can be as healthy as possible to fight off as many things as possible. So that's full sun, that is watering at the soil level, so not overhead watering, that's very important. Making sure there's good airflow, so space between the plant for air to go. Make sure you fertilize at planting and about halfway through the season. And good pruning practices can actually really help. So here's a good example. Look at this. This is obviously something. Now, I cannot wait to see the comments on this video because there definitely are going to be some people that say, oh, that is, magnesium deficiency, or that's late blight. No, it's early blight. I mean, the arguments will go on and on and on. But none of us can really be sure what this is unless we sent it to a lab. I'm not going to waste the time and the energy. What I do know about this is that it's unhealthy. And the reason why it's unhealthy is it's a leaf that has been closest to the ground. And now if you're in Florida or wetter parts of zone 9 and 10, this is really an important tip for you. Here in Southern California, we don't get late summer rains, so it doesn't matter as much, but it's still a good practice to take off the bottom leaves because a lot of blights, which is a total wastebasket term. They don't really mean anything. It's just kind of something that you call a lot of diseases you don't know. They come from late season rains hitting the ground, splashing up bacteria and fungus and viruses from the soil and getting it on the leaf matter, and then it travels up through the plant. I can't tell you exactly what this is, but what I can tell you is it needs to go away. We need to get rid of it. And this should have been pruned before the damage was shown, but for the video's sake, we left it on there. So I'm gonna prune this guy. And just to be safe, I'm gonna throw this in the trash. I'm not gonna throw it in the compost because I don't know what it is. Now this is doing several things. Opening up airflow so we get more air moving around these plants so that it will dry out. We're also just getting rid of this disease. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. I'm gonna get rid of this guy. You can see this could be a nutrient deficiency. It could be a lot of things. Now we know that we fertilize at the time of planting, so there should be plenty of energy in the plant to be happy. But regardless, it needs to go away. Now there's another thing on here that you can see. This is whiteflies. That's an insect that really loves tomatoes, and it can be relatively harmless in small numbers, but if it gets out of control, it can really do quite a bit of damage. You can see I've got more up here. Now, there's a very simple way to manage this. You can either use an insecticide soap that you spray on here to get to actually get the whiteflies off. You can use sticky traps that are specific for whiteflies, which will attract them. They'll land on it. They can't get off. It will reduce the population. But even with this amount of whiteflies on here, I'm not really concerned. I'm still gonna get so many cherry tomatoes on this plant that I'm not super concerned about it. I am gonna monitor it. That's really important. Now I know because I planted this in full sun, there's good airflow, there's fertilizer, and there's irrigation, that this plant likely will outgrow a lot of this damage. I can do a little more pruning in here. I can get rid of a couple more little leaves to, again, open up airflow, to reduce the amount of insects that are on here. Whitefly is really gonna thrive when there's a lot of stagnant air and they can just really reproduce quickly. Now, look at this. See, what happens is you get one problem and then you get more problems. So we got whitefly. This might be like a nutrient deficiency. You could see some aphids moving around on there. And then this is some type of fungus from the whiteflies. Basically, one thing leads to another. It's just like us. When we get sick, what happens? We're overworked, we're tired, we're not eating well, we're not sleeping well, we're dehydrated. All of those things lead into ending up with the flu or, you know, some other illness. You got to make sure that the plant has everything it needs to grow happy and healthy so that it can fight off as much as possible. So my recommendation for all these vines would be to come through, prune off any diseased parts, throw them away, make sure I'm irrigating enough, they're not wilting during the day and then coming back. Maybe add a little bit of liquid fertilizer as another little shot of fertilizer so that they can outgrow any of the damage, and then let them grow and let them do their thing. They're gonna give me so many tomatoes that I'm not worried about it. You can see up here, these plants look perfectly green and happy and they're so beautiful. Well, they're getting full sun, they're getting a lot of airflow, they really can grow and do their thing. All right, so next let's talk about pruning. So if you saw the video that we did on pruning tomatoes, you know that it's a little bit of a divisive subject. I mean, everybody has different opinions on how you prune, and it really depends on the end product that you're looking for. Are you doing commercial tomatoes? Are you a backyard grower? Are you growing it on low and lean? Are you doing it on a cattle panel? There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. But for this example, what I want to show you is the low and lean, which is something that is used in commercial greenhouses that has a really nice home, or is a really good fit for the home gardener, because you can do a lot in a very small space. Now we have videos on exactly that. We'll link to it on this video, but the summary basically is you prune to 1 leader or 1 main stem. See, there's 1 here. And we keep picking from the bottom. And as the plant continues to grow, it keeps growing. And up here we have a reserve of like 40 feet of string that we can keep letting out as the plant grows, so that we can let it get lower and lean. Look at that, very inventive name. And we're gonna keep clipping it to this main string here. Now, you're basically growing 1 vine is a good way to look at it, right? Now I'm not gonna leave this guy on here because he's not quite ready, so we'll put him back. But the key point of this is you have to stay on top of pruning, and here's a good example. This guy over here, if you look at the bottom, got 1 main leader or vine, you can call it that. And following with what I said in the beginning of the video, I'm gonna go ahead and take these guys off. I'm gonna take them off because they're not getting enough sunlight. They're only more likely to get disease. They're not doing a whole lot. We'll get rid of those. And you'll see in every corner where there was a sucker, it got pruned off until we got up here and look, we got lazy. This sucker needs to come right off. Now, what's great is you can actually stick this in a cup of water and it can root, and then you can plant that out. You can give it to friends, or you can just throw it in the compost. It's perfectly healthy. But the reason why we're getting rid of this is if we don't, then suddenly we'll have 2 leaders. And look over on this side, we got another one. If we don't get rid of this, then we have 3 leaders, and it really starts to get out of control. So if you're going to use the low and lean method, stay on top of pruning. At every corner here, you can see there was a sucker, and we got rid of them. Boom, boom, boom. You can see we cut them. Oh, here's a little baby one. Get rid of that. This one all the way up top, get rid of that. And you're doing that because you're channeling the energy into ripening the tomatoes, not growing more tomato material. The thing about cherry tomatoes and all tomatoes is they don't care about what you want. They're here to grow a big old plant and put out as much plant matter as possible. But you as the gardener or the farmer need to tell them, no, I want cherry tomatoes. I don't want a lot of plant matter. So staying on top of pruning is going to make a really big difference. Now, I'm sure you guys have seen my garden where we'll do cherry tomatoes on a cattle panel. We just let them go crazy. It doesn't matter. They're really for my son to just go out and pick as many cherry tomatoes as he wants. So there's a method for everybody depending on what your goal is. If you want to concentrate production and have very clean plants like this, you can do a low and lean. I do want to point out that low and lean only works with indeterminate pole tomatoes or any tomato that can be pruned to 1 single leader. So this is not a good choice for dwarf tomatoes or even determinate bush tomatoes because they simply don't get long enough. It's great for cherry tomatoes and is really great for any type of heirloom pole tomato like black crim that just gets out of control, purple Cherokee, all really good choices to grow on the low and lean method. Okay, so let's talk about harvesting. So on the low and lean method, the point of doing it is really to ensure that you have concentrated bundles of tomatoes for harvesting. That's why they do it in commercial agriculture, is because they would wait until this is mostly filled out and then they would cut this. And sometimes this is what you see in the store when you see tomatoes on the vine. For us here, we're not gonna sell this. We're only really gonna eat it. You can do several things. You can come through and you can just, pick them one by one and enjoy them. Or you can cut this whole thing off. And this can literally go on your kitchen counter. It's beautiful. And you can wait for these last ones to start to ripen and start eating from here. And this is an interesting little fellow because what's happened is it actually grew a whole stem of fruit and then it's starting to grow new material, which is hilarious. You would want to get rid of this because it actually does no service to you. You want the plant to focus on these guys. So you can either do that or you can harvest them one by one. Look at this amazing string. I mean, dude, this is exactly why I love Sweetie tomato. On one string, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's a lot. There's a lot. Look at that. Gorgeous. And you can wait until this whole thing is ready to harvest or harvest by one. But the plant is focusing on ripening these, and then it will go to these, and so on and so forth until you go up the vine. We've actually got some Desi Sun Golds here. And you can see the same thing. The ones on the bottom are ripening first because the energy comes up, stops here, makes a pit stop, ripens these, ripens, keep going up, you've got more, all the way up the plant. So harvesting is easy because you know where the ripened tomatoes are gonna be. They're always gonna be at the bottom. Look at these guys. Oh my God. I'm gonna eat all of these. This is actually a good example because here, we train to 2 liters. You can make that choice. See, there's 1 and then there's 2. Don't go over really more than 2 liters on a low and lean system. Otherwise, what's the point? At that point, you could just let it grow wild and kind of do its thing. If you do more than 2 liters, it's a lot to keep up with. So either 1, max 2 is going to make for the easiest tomato plants to manage. All right, so if you're a grower in zone 9 and 10, subscribe to our channel if you want gardening tips and tricks, and if you want to be part of a community of growers that love seeing people thrive in their garden. I would also love it if you commented on this video and you told me ways in which you grow cherry tomatoes that you find really successful, and if there's a particular variety of cherry tomato that you love, because I want to try it in my garden. All right, so out in the market is so many varieties of cherry tomatoes. It's kind of insane. I want to point out 2 of my favorites. So we have here the Desi Sun Gold. Part of the reason why this is my favorite is this is actually a project that we worked on with the University of Davis. It is actually a take on the hybrid Sun Gold, but is an open pollinated variety that does really well in heat, which is important for us in zone 9 and 10. And it has a lot less cracking than Sun Gold does. Super sweet, prolific tomato, and it's named after my son, Desi. Now, if you guys didn't know, Desi 2.0 is coming. Obviously, it's kind of hard to hide at this point, but we are expecting baby number 2 in late September. So the cat's out of the bag, okay? I mean, obviously, you know, most people can tell, but this is not beer weight. This is a new baby coming. We might have a new cherry tomato variety that we name after the second one. Who knows? Now, another standard that I love is the Sweetie, and part of the reason why I love Sweetie is because it literally has drips and drips of tomatoes hanging off the plant and can give you more cherry tomatoes than you ever know what to do with, and they're all sweet little bursts of flavor that can be enjoyed in the garden.